Hey there, everyone. Ervin here, and today we're going to be talking about Space Marine 2 and if it's worth your time and money or not. Now, I've been on an absolute tear with this game since early access began, spending 16 straight hours in game on the first day, with many more to come. And during this time, I have to say that I felt engaged the entire time, which cannot be understated in its value in itself. But let's talk about everything you're likely considering when it comes to picking up this title for yourself. So, Space Marine 2 has shipped with a full length campaign with difficulty modes ranging all the way from game journalist mode to masochist mode, giving you and up to two friends a ride lasting about 12 hours or so, depending on what difficulty you decide to play through on and if you decide to tackle it at a higher one later on. During this campaign, you play through unique locations fighting two different factions with a host of unique weapons to the 40k universe, in which you will be absolutely sat up in your seat the entire time, as the active engagement level of the game is absolutely peak thanks to its intricate parry and perfect dodge systems intermingled with counters, heavy attacks, light attacks, and gunplay. I'm incredibly glad this game is not a cover shooter, as its non stop aggressive gameplay really gives it a not only methodical but non-stop action-filled pacing that I did not miss dry humping a wall during whatsoever. The sense of scale and power fantasy of the game is also nailed in an incredibly satisfying way. Like how every time you see a guardsman, not only do you look for the option to pet them because they are so tiny compared to you, and honestly, now that I think about it, 0 out of 10, you can't pet the guardsman. You truly do realize just how built different you are, though, when you see the tanks scattered across the battlefield that barely come up to your height. And hell, the heretics fighting alongside the Thousand Sons are such an insignificant threat to your might that you can literally squish them with just the clap of your cheeks as you roll on top of them, giving a whole new meaning to getting rolled. Suffice to say, you feel incredibly powerful, but not all powerful. The enemy is infinite in number, and you are far from the most powerful thing in this universe, creating a fantastic feeling of power fantasy, but not at the expense of challenge. Now, $60 for a 12-hour campaign is a tall ask, and although that's unfortunately a pretty standard duration for PvE gameplay at the AAA price tag nowadays, no one's particularly happy about that. Thankfully, that is far from all you get when you pick up Space Marine 2, as not only are you getting a 12-hour campaign, but you will also have access to a 6v6 PvP mode with three separate game modes of its own should that be your style, but also a PvE mode that currently sports 6 operations, which will average another 5 hours or so to play through them all, assuming you don't lose, as any failure during these operations does mean a swift kick back to the lobby. Now, the PvE operations is honestly where the meat of the game is for me and where I spent almost all of my time thus far. The PvE operations play out in a way that is reminiscent of Left 4 Dead, World War Z, and Back 4 Blood. And while the gameplay is at its core different, you will start to see a lot of elements that you recognize from these titles as you play through, such as the limited ammunition outside of the occasional infinite crates, limited health that is very difficult to recover, leading to a down but not out system, which your teammates must revive you from. Randomly distributed utility items found throughout the level, including scarce health pickups that can recover your down state when getting back to full health. And of course, campaigns that stay the exact same as far as the map and objectives, but are kept fresh with how the swarm will come at you from different angles at different time frames and spawn in a variety of elite enemies to hamper your advance at random locations throughout the campaign, including hunters. I mean, lictors. This, alongside the very deep and thoughtful progression system you get alongside the game with its 6 classes, all hosting a variety of different primary weapons, secondaries, and melee options, as well as individual perk trees for those weapons themselves, alongside your class perks you unlock, leads to an extremely high variety of viable ways to play the individual classes and tailor them to your playstyle. A good example of this is the sniper, which has been my main class thus far. Although you can perk out for exactly what you would expect with the las Fusel rifle and a shitload of headshot damage to play as a Majoris headhunter from your team's backline, You can also play a more mid range style utilizing the carbines and pick up perks that allow you to clutch the revives for your team utilizing your cloak to turn them invisible on revive and revive them 30% quicker. Beyond this, you could late game even go for a duelist or assassin type playstyle, utilizing the perks on your sidearm and combat knife that is literally the size of a human being, by the way, mixed in with some very powerful melee perks within the class itself, such as 100% additional melee damage when leaving stealth. Combo this one with the ability to enter invisibility every time you nail a perfect dodge, and you've got yourself a recipe for an entirely different feeling, more up close and personal big game hunter on your hands. This is just one example out of the 6 classes on how you can play a variety of ways, so I'm absolutely positive there are many more examples of this. But the point here is that there is a very high degree of depth and customization here, regardless of what you may have previously heard about the game. So, if you're someone that's into that sort of thing, this game might be your kind of bag. Now, let's talk a little bit more about the gameplay. And the gameplay loop you're going to be experiencing in the PvE mode is leveling up and improving your gear through 4 difficulty modes, all rated for different level ranges. And although you will be playing just those 6 different operations, and that probably doesn't sound like a lot to you, don't worry because they will be expanding this over time and they never really play out exactly the same way due to the reasons we discussed earlier. So, any feelings of repetition are going to be a matter of taste and preference based around if the variety coming from the composition of your team as well as the enemy randomization is enough for you. If it is, you'll likely enjoy Space Marine 2 for a very substantial amount of time, as I've put 24 hours in already with just this one game mode so far and have not even maxed my first class yet. Suffice to say, I'm gonna be here for a while. As far as difficulty is concerned, even the starting difficulty recommended for level 1 Marines is challenging enough that you have to pay at least a decent amount of attention to what's going on if you want to succeed. Even though I referred to this on my stream as game journalist mode, I did still feel engaged and not even remotely bored the entire time. Cranking it up to the mid level difficulties, the game becomes relatively brutal depending on your squad's current gear and how evil the game director is feeling on any given run. The challenge is most certainly here, especially when you're finally cranked the difficulty all the way up. Health is incredibly scarce, and a missed parry can cascade into a wipe for your entire squad. I'm very happy to say that although I've been playing games like Space Marine 2 all my life, my win rate is nowhere near 100%. This is a great thing for me because if a game can't kick my ass when I'm new to it, I don't feel compelled to improve or like I have any room to grow. Right from the beginning, I seem to have that challenge with this game. Getting better not just via gear, but as a player is an extremely compelling factor as to why I've been sinking dozens of hours into this game. All that said, the character customization is also pretty peak, with 10 chapter colors available as well as unlockable through gameplay cosmetic pieces that can change any individual piece of your gear, whether that be your chest armor's adornments, left shoulder pad, right leg, and so on. You can make a truly unique looking Space Marine all without shelling out any extra cash beyond that cover price, which is always a good thing in my opinion. Should you desire even more cosmetics, the Season Pass does allow you to unlock some additional pieces, but there are far more free ones than not. All too often, we see a multiplayer game come out with cosmetic skins that are just palette swaps of the same exact outfits, and I'm happy to say that this is not at all one of those games, and most Warhammer fans will be satisfied getting to represent their chapter of choice here. Beyond that, there are of course plans to add much more customization in the future as well as more chapter colors. Which is a good opportunity to talk about what is coming next for Space Marine 2. Within the year, the game will be receiving a dueling arena where you can spar with your friends, new PvE missions beyond the original 6, an even higher difficulty mode made for level 20 Marines and higher, as well as a new Neo Volkite pistol. Within the next year, you can expect even more PvE missions, 2 new enemy factions beyond the Chaos and Tyranid factions that you'll be fighting in the game currently, which is going to essentially double the amount of content within the PvE game mode by this point, if not more. Couple this with even more new weapons, an endless horde mode, as well as a prestige system, and I don't think you're going to be dissatisfied with the amount of game you're getting for that original $60 price tag, as all of this content will be entirely stay free while new cosmetic season pass content is added alongside. In summary, as far as value goes, you can expect to get 12 hours out of the campaign at a minimum, should that be your desired experience, any amount of time out of the PvP mode, which is also progressing your PvE mode gear within, by the way, and more than 30 hours should you find the PvE game mode compelling at a minimum, just on launch with more than double this amount throughout the next year. You'll also be receiving what has been for me the most adrenaline filled, edge of my seat gameplay that I've experienced in a very long time. So, in closing, yes, I do feel this game is good value for money and a damned good time. If you made it this far in the video and the contents of it has sounded compelling to you, well, then it might just be a game for you to pick up as well. Thanks for watching till the end, and if you want to see more of this style of content, giving quick rundowns on new game releases, be sure to subscribe and like the video so I know to keep them coming. I also want to mention very quickly here my community Discord, the Ghost Divers, is now not only recruiting Hell Divers, but Space Marines as well, now that we have Warhammer specific chat channels, lore, media, and most importantly, a looking for group channel that you can use to team up and make new friends to enjoy the game with if you do decide to pick up the game. Important to note as well that I personally absolutely hate joining streamer and creator discords that at everyone me all the time, and if I do, they typically end up muted because of this. I never ping you for new videos or streams unless you take the role saying you wish for me to. So, if you want to hop into the Discord just to look for new friends and allies to take on the game with, or just nerd out in the Warhammer discussion channels without being pinged by me yapping, then you can 100% do that, and it is encouraged. That's enough from me for now, though, so I'll see you next time.